You are listening to Crime Unraveled, a Buck Taylor novel by Chuck Morgan.
Chapter 47. Who the hell was this guy? Asked George. Bax, Paul, and Sheriff Weaver sat in the conference room with George and Mel on speaker. This software would make James Bond envious, he said. You sure he was a geologist, and that he didn't work for the NSA? So the software on the drive did work in conjunction with his laptop? Asked Bax. You've all heard of steganography, right? Asked George. The sheriff shook his head. Hold on a minute, George, said Bax. She turned to the sheriff. Steganography, in its simplest form, is when you use a computer program to hide something inside something else. For instance, you want to hide child porn so no one can find it. You use a program, and you embed the porn in the picture of, say, a beautiful sunset. Only you and the people you trust know the porn is there, and when they want to look at the porn, they open this program, enter a password, and it converts the sunset picture back into the porn. Shit, said the sheriff. The older I get, the weirder the world becomes. Okay, so this geologist used this stega whatever to hide pictures inside other pictures. Also files and reports, said George. And the encryption is top-notch. Keep an eye on your screen. They could hear George click a few keys, and the pictures and file folders on Tim Woodman's laptop screen melted in a swirl of vibrant colors, and in their place were new files, reports, and pictures. Paul opened the first file and found a transcript of a conversation between Woodman and Ramon and Gabriela Velasquez. After a few minutes of reading, the sheriff sat back and said, They did. They talked about blowing up the canyon to make it easier to get to a new find of rare earth metals. I still can't believe it. These people have lived here since the beginning. They've supported the local economy for years, and just like that, they decide to blow up the canyon. Paul had continued reading. Here's a conversation between Ramon and Gabriela where they talked about killing two birds with one stone, access to the minerals, and damming the Colorado River, and returning the water to its rightful owner. There are also financials here showing that their wells were drying up, and they were selling off huge parts of the cattle and horse herds. These people were desperate. The door opened, and Buck stepped into the conference room. How'd the interview go? Bax asked. There won't be any problem. The investigator and Janice are talking to the DA right now, and I should be good to go in a couple of hours. Anything on the guy the first killed? Bax handed him a sheet of paper. Ex-miner hurt working on one of the Velasquez mines. Large influx of cash into his account over the last couple of days. We checked his phone. One text to Gabriela Velasquez's cell phone, telling her he was following someone and would intercept. Gabriela replied several hours later, asking for status. The money this guy received came from a trust fund that appears to belong to Gabriela. The director has financial crimes working on that. What about Tina Welker and her sons? We've got them stashed away in a hotel out of town with 2 deputies keeping an eye on them, said Bax. Buck's phone chimed, and he looked at the number and answered. Hey Max. Hey Buck. How's my favorite cop? How the hell do you get into these jams? You know me, Max, just lucky. Yeah. Okay. Enough small talk. Back to work, said Max. The gun that Bax sent us this morning matches the bullets we retrieved from Mr. Heinrich. It was also a match for the bullets retrieved from Roger Burns, Keith Burns, and the 2 guys you found in the warehouse, Jerry Medina and Edgar Nunez. We found 2 sets of prints on the weapon. The first 2 were a thumb and forefinger on the end of the magazine. Those are a match to the elimination prints Bax sent of Christina Welker. The others are a full right-hand set and match Gabriela Velasquez. She was printed 10 years ago after a bar fight. No charges were ever filed, and the case went away. That's great, Max, said Buck. Upload the reports to the investigation file, and thanks for the rush job. No worries, Buck. You're a good man, and God will watch over you. Buck disconnected the call and hooked his phone onto his belt. Okay, he said. We can connect Gabriela to the murders, which is enough to put her away, but can we connect her to the destruction in the canyon? Paul looked, but George responded first. With all these encrypted files from the geologist, and all the files Mrs. Welker gave us, yeah. Without a doubt, we can connect her and her brother to the bombing. Her name and image are all over these files and videos. Buck's phone chimed, and he looked at the number. Buck Taylor. Agent Taylor, this is Dr. Walsh over at the hospital. I wanted to let you know that Mrs. Woodman died 10 minutes ago from her injuries. The beating left her with significant internal bleeding. We tried our best, but were unsuccessful. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate you letting me know. Buck disconnected the call. Fuck, he said, and he walked out of the conference room. He walked over to the refrigerator in the corner and pulled out a bottle of Coke, dropping a $5 bill in the donations cup. He stood looking out the window. Bax walked over and stood next to him. You gonna be okay? He was silent for a minute and took a large sip from the bottle. Yeah. I wish I had gotten to her sooner. It was only by luck that I spotted the 2 sets of headlights and felt like something was wrong. She was afraid. Sounds like you did all you could. The damage was most likely done before you even got to her. Nothing else you could have done, said Bax. He took another swallow. Do me a favor and see if Janice is still in the building. Bax walked away, and Buck finished the bottle of Coke and threw it in the recycle bin. He walked back to the conference room just as Bax and Ada Garvey came around the corner. They followed him into the room. Bax, please open the investigation file and see if Max has uploaded the ballistics report. Sheriff, can you have someone bring Peter Welker to the interrogation room? Asked Buck. Okay, Buck, said Janice Garvey. What are we looking at? Bax opened the report. The bullets from the gun Mrs. Welker brought in are a match to the murders of Heinrich, Roger and Keith Burns, and the 2 warehouse workers. Buck took over. How confident are you on the admissibility of the pistol? Everything hinges on that. Well, let's look at what else we have, said Janice. We have a video of her entering and leaving the demolition company trailer at the same time the pathologist says the murders took place. We have a grainy video of a woman who fits Gabriella's description, killing the 2 warehouse workers. The only tie we have to the murder of Heinrich is her prints on the gun and the bullet match. She could claim self-defense, but we can get around that. The sheriff stuck his head in the door and nodded. Paul, pull up the files from the computers and review those while I go talk to Peter Welker, said Buck. He walked out the door and followed the sheriff to the interview room. Peter Welker looked like he hadn't slept in days. He was pale and drawn and his hair was a mess. Buck sat across from him and opened the recording app on his phone. Peter, I need to remind you that you are still under oath. Do you understand? Asked Buck. Peter responded he did. Do you want me to call the public defender? Peter said no. Peter, this morning your wife came into the station and gave us a gun and a thumb drive. There is evidence on the drive that implicates Ramon, Gabriella, and several other people in a plot to blow up the canyon. The gun is registered to Gabriella and has been linked to 5 murders. Is my wife okay and my sons? Peter asked. Yes. We have them tucked away in a safe house close to here with 2 guards. Your wife is sporting a black eye courtesy of her sister, but other than that she is fine. Gabby hit her? Can I see her? Asked Peter. Not just yet, but I will arrange for that to happen as soon as possible. Peter, your wife took a huge risk bringing that pistol and the information to us. She's frightened and knows that Gabriella will seek revenge if she can. The only protection for your family is to make sure that Gabriella goes to prison and never gets out. Can you be as strong as your wife and help us protect them? Peter put his face in his hands and cried. Buck and the sheriff sat back and waited. After a few minutes, Peter looked up and wiped his eyes on his sleeve. Gabriella forced me to post those things on the internet. She wanted to take the focus off her, Ramon, and the company. How did she force you? Asked Buck. She threatened to shut down Tina's trust fund. She said she could do it with one phone call to the bank. I've been a shitty provider for my family, and if it weren't for the income from the trust fund, we'd be living on the street. I'm a failure, and she used that against me. Did she order you to ask for the ransom or the release of Rodney Tubin? Asked Buck. No, that I did on my own. I figured nothing would come of the demands, so I just ad-libbed. Guess that was pretty stupid, huh? Peter, would you be willing to testify to all this in court? Yes, Peter answered without hesitation. Whatever it takes to protect my family. Thanks, Peter. Sit tight and someone will come get you. Buck turned off the recording app, and he and the sheriff stepped out of the room, then walked to the conference room, where Paul and George walked Janice through the evidence. He placed his phone on the table and hit the play button. They all listened to the interview with Peter. When the interview ended, Buck put his phone away. Janice looked deep in thought. The evidence against Gabriella for the bombing is a little light. She covered her tracks. We have her discussing the explosion, her talking with the geologists, she, Ramon and Roger plotting, and the payoff to Rogers. We don't have her pushing the button, but I think we can make a conspiracy charge stick. This woman is smart and knows how to hide her involvement, but I can work with that. The murders are a no-brainer. I would take those to a grand jury any day of the week. Package it all up, and I'll take it to Judge McAllister and see if we can get an arrest warrant. Sit tight. Bax filled out the warrant and search request, while Paul in the office and George and Mel on the phone packaged the documents into a file the judge could understand. Buck went to find an office so he could grab a few hours of sleep.
Thank you for listening to this chapter of Crime Unraveled, a Buck Taylor novel by Chuck Morgan. You can find the entire crime series as well as other novels by Chuck Morgan at chuckmorganbooks.com or on Amazon.